Hi, guys, welcome back to another part of this long analysis dedicated to the final episode of Shingeki no Kyojin. Welcome back. I can tell you from now that even next week I will be handling this final episode to finally reach the end and my last considerations. So stay tuned and keep on watching me. But sorry. But now it's time to go on with what I was telling you yesterday. That means we are approaching the end of the episode, and second of all, we are discussing about this dialogue between Eren and Armin. So let's see if today we can reach the thumbnail that I put for today. Okay, I wait a few seconds. In the meantime, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for staying together with me throughout this analysis. Thank you for the comments you write. Feel free to write all of the comments regarding this final episode. Be sure to tell me. What's your opinion about the ending, if you like it, if you didn't like it, why you like it, why you don't like it, and feel free to talk about anything. If you wanted to ask me questions, feel free to do so too. So okay, yesterday we started this long dialogue between Armin and Eren, and we reached the moment in which both of them are reaching this river of a fire that is that is lava. That is part of this unknown world that they wanted to explore thanks to that promise they made when they were so young in front of that book. Now it's time to go on because it's time to talk about Ymir. And in fact, Eren is already telling Armin some details about her. So, are you ready to join me? Let's start. Okay, let's see. Let me refresh the page as always. Okay. Yes, yesterday we arrived in this point, more or less. Mm, exactly. Okay, so now Eren is explaining what happened to Ymir, and this is the first time we have the chance to talk about her deeper after episode 80, in which we could already see some of the details about her life. Eren is saying, okay, let me move the screen a little bit. Okay, like this. Eren is saying that Ymir found her house burned down by King Fritz. She saw that her parents were killed by him and her tongue was ripped out by him. Yesterday, I was telling you that now I want to compare King Fritz with. What happened to Ymir, but specifically, I wanted to compare. Sorry, yes, I wanted to compare Ymir with Eren because let's say that in most of these things they have lots of things in common, don't you think? For example, Eren says that King Fritz burned down Ymir's house. It's like what happened to Eren, let's say, when the Kyojin, when the Titans reached Shiganshina and they destroyed Shiganshina. So, do you remember that? All houses were burned down, and then even later in season 4 part 1, sorry, part 2, when we go back to Shiganshina, and you know the result of this decision, because Shiganshina is burnt down thanks to all these titans and thanks to Zeke's scream. So and even for the rambling later, surely. But I think that Eren has this thing in common with Ymir, because suddenly his house too was falling apart, as much as in the case of Ymir, that she saw her house burning down. And second of all, he says that Ymir saw her parents killed. In this case, she has something in common with Eren once again, because Eren saw his mother dying in front of his eyes, as much as Ymir saw her parents dying in front of her eyes. Let's say then we can compare Ymir to Mikasa too, because we know, okay, her house was not burning down for sure, but in the case of Mikasa, she saw her parents dying in front of her house, in front of her eyes. Sorry. So as you can see, both Eren and Mikasa can understand Ymir from this point of view pretty well. And then we understand that her tongue was ripped out. This is something that we didn't know before. I mean, we have never understood this, and that's why um, we were always guessing in the previous seasons why Ymir couldn't say anything, why Ymir couldn't explain herself. The reason why is this, because her tongue was ripped out. Yes, as much as I told you in the previous analysis, I think that these specific detail makes more sense of the fact that it was pretty hard for us to understand Ymir's emotions. And I think that when she was hugged by Eren, she could sense that Eren could have understood her, even because of these details they have in common. But we could see from her just a face, an angry face. And even later, at the end of this episode, when Eren is killed by Mikasa, we could see that she could regain her eyes, and even later when she's confronting Mikasa. So I think that um, yeah, I think that Eren was the one who could help Ymir to express herself for her last time, even because of these, because they have lots of things in common, but at the same time, she has things in common with Mikasa too. So that's why this connection between these three characters is becoming pretty important. Talking about Ymir and the fact that she has her tongue ripped out, we couldn't understand uh, the interaction she had with the other characters, like King Fritz. I mean, we could understand her behavior, but we couldn't understand the words she wanted to say, but she couldn't say. That's another expression of the fact that she was a slave, because by seeing that her tongue was ripped out, it's pretty easy to understand the King Fritz method to let them become all his slaves. And even when the King Fritz was saying, "Look, if you don't tell me who is the culprit, I will cut one of your eyes, because the slaves don't need them." So, as you can see, you could understand the brutality of King Fritz with Ymir and with all his slaves. And now, more than ever, we understood the reason why she could cultivate this oppression, but even this anger that little by little took her to make that decision that was pretty essential for the rest of the story. But let's go on and see what the both are saying. Exactly. Uh, her will was to stay under King Fritz even after this godlike power. And Armin is curious because he's saying, well, what in the world made her do that? There's something I felt when I touched her in the paths. I really like even the background here while they are talking about Ymir, because it's a perfectly matching with not only with the High General hello. The context, I mean, the setting is matching perfectly with the description of Ymir's background story, but it's also matching, as you know, the dream of Armin and Eren to go outside the world. I mean, to go outside the wall and explore the world. So both on one side the dream, and on the other side the catastrophe that happened to her, that can represented that can be represented by the same context, by the same background. But anyway, Eren is saying, yeah, there's something I felt when I touched her in the past. We don't have to forget that Eren, right now, while he's talking about Ymir, he is still represented as a young boy. And not only because Eren could understand even Mikasa when he was young, because he rescued her based on what he was seeing. As you could see, if we compare Ymir's life with Mikasa's life, in Ymir's life, nobody could save her from her destiny, not even herself, because she chose to go on with the will of serving King Fritz. But in the case of Mikasa, she was saved in the worst moment, while she was almost being killed or kidnapped by those three men. Here it is, Eren reaching her and try to save her, even if at the end of the day Mikasa saved him, if you remember. I mean, there was a moment in which Eren could save her, but then, thanks to her will to save him, she could do that. But I wanted to compare these two situations to understand how Ymir's life went on in a different way than Mikasa's life. By the way, let's go ahead and see what he says. Sorry. Yes, I forgot to tell you this. Yes, I was talking about Eren as a boy, because Eren, when he was young, as much as I was telling you yesterday, he could comprehend more some sort of situations. Let's say that when he was young and nothing happened before Carla's death, he could be so empathic to others, and he was protecting others clearly in front of everyone's eyes, right? Not like now when he is starting the rumbling and he's destroying lots of people's lives because he wants to protect his friends. But as you can see, even for his friends, it was not easy to detect his personality, to understand what was in his mind until a certain point. But when he was young, he was protective, and at the same time, he is still thinking, when he was young, about this dream of reaching these continents, these different continents of the world. So I like that they chose Eren as a young boy here, while he's talking about something that he's already seeing when he's adult and when he's touching Ymir in the past. So these contrast between a young and adult, these a young boy that has already an adult mind, because everything is coexisting. So for Eren, there's no more separation between the past, the present, and future, and these scenes can explain you exactly this. While with Zeke, you see that he was coexisting, but while he was talking to Zeke, he didn't go back to a young version of himself, because he met Zeke later when he was already a young adult. And second of all, because at that time, the most important thing was not to reveal to Zeke how he was when he was young. Even if he could see some scenes of himself as if he was a young boy, but with Armin there is a more intimate relationship, and Armin knows Eren from the moments in which they spent together when they were young. So Zeke couldn't have had the same possibility to talk to him by coexisting through time when Eren was young. I think that it would have been nice anyway to see that episode, Memories of the Future, with the two Jaeger brothers when they both were young, talking. Can you imagine if we could see a young Zeke and a young Eren exploring their experiences? But this didn't happen because in that in that um, in that episode, it's the first time we discover about Eren's real ability, that is to coexist through time. So I think it was better to keep it as it was. But now that we know that everyone is connected to the through the paths, and that Eren coexists through time, it's the perfect time to do a scene like this together with his best friend. It's like a journey, you know. Sometimes when there are episodes like this, it's like as if Eren is Virgilio. So I always wanted to quote the Divine Comedy from Dante, because even in that poem, immense and incredible poem, there is a journey from hell to heaven. And even in that case, there is the protagonist, that is Dante, and Virgilio, that is helping him throughout the journey. So yeah, Eren sometimes reminds me of him. I mean, of Virgilio, that is helping these characters to discover some climaxes or some things that are essential for the story. I really liked this choice from the author. That wanted that Eren became a sort of a guide through a certain path. That was really really interesting. Exactly. Then there is this scene in which you see that Ymir is on one side together with her first daughter, and the King Fritz was on the opposite side, surrounded by his lovers. A person who wanted to be estimated by others all the time, a person that wanted to have affection. Sexual affection, but even trying to reach his desires. And the most important thing was his persona and not Ymir at all. Ymir was never considered as a woman, was never considered as lover. She was not considered as a person by him, but she simply was considered as a slave, a container of the perpetration of life or perpetration of descendants. And in fact, these descendants is going ahead thanks to Ymir. So even King Fritz represents this life that can't accept to stop, this life that wants to multiply no matter what, even if this means to use the setting surrounding him. That's fair for him, because the most important thing as for an empire, because he was establishing his Eldian empire, was to keep this empire at the best, and not to fail easily. So even creating these descendants, that even if there were three daughters and not a boy, that was already something strange, because usually to move on with your descendants, you always want to have a boy, right? Even in monarchy, you know that the boy or the men means more than the girls or queens, right? So no, sorry. Yes, even when there is a king and a queen, the king matters more than a queen. But let's say that women in monarchy are chosen only if there is nothing else to choose. Um, so King Fritz had three girls, but even thanks to those three girls, his intention to move on with these. To go on with this empire was fulfilled, and anyway, Ymir was used for this principally. But even this amazing scene in which you see the distance between Ymir and King Fritz, while King Fritz is doing his stuff, Ymir is taking care of their first daughter, and she's not asking for help because she knows that no one will help her. Yeah, the distance and even these. Two ray of lights that are making the difference to show you how distant they are, as much as the darkness that is in between them, because there is no kind of relationship. This is pretty effective. I really like, yes, symbolically speaking, how they represent these. Even the fact that the King Fritz is drinking and he's sitting on his throne while Ymir is standing and she is by herself alone. Of course, she was a slave, so she couldn't sit next to him. And this represents even the difference of status between the two. Exactly. Aaron is explaining that basically the love that Ymir felt for King Fritz could create this bond that was going on for 2000 years. And then we move on to another context. I mean, we move away from the lava and that river made of a fire continent, and we move to stars. We move to this other continent that is made of ice. That is another continent that Eren and Armin wanted to see together. So, as you can see, we start from the beginning when they sit while looking at the walls. We pass from all these continents, and even Eren is changing, physically speaking. I mean, he's growing, but he is saying, yes, throughout the time, that he can't understand the deepest depth of founder Ymir's heart. Yes, once again, I wanted to underline this. Nor Zeke nor Eren couldn't understand what was in Ymir's mind. First of all, because she couldn't speak and she couldn't say out loud what she wanted through the memories, but at the same time, because they were not in her same position. I mean, they couldn't understand her because both of them didn't have the same sort of experience to understand how hard is for a person to get rid of the loved one. Eren, of course, later he will regret the fact that he will die. He doesn't want to die, etc., etc. He doesn't want to leave Mikasa alone. But let's say that Mikasa, throughout these seasons, was the best choice for Ymir because Mikasa and Ymir loved a person, and it was pretty hard for them to get rid of their lovers. So I think Mikasa was the best choice that could understand Ymir totally, and and that's why Ymir wanted to reach her so desperately because she found for the first time a person that maybe can understand her and can also change the things that she couldn't change as a great resolution of things. But it was clear that she has been suffering, of course. for the entire 2000 years. But at the same time, um, I don't think that Ymir was a masochist too, because for sure, when she had the founding Titan's power, I think that she definitely saw from the future by having incorporated even the power of the Shingeki no Kyojin, that later was becoming the Shingeki no Kyojin. But let's say that when she was the founding Titan, the power of the Shingeki no Kyojin didn't have any name, any sort of name, right? Um, but at that time, I think that she saw from the future that someone would have come to save her, that someone would have come to let her be free from that sort of slavery. So I don't think that Ymir did anything on without purposes. I think that on the contrary, yes, she did what she did on purpose, because she was convinced that someone would have come and saved her. Then did she know the amount of time that it would have needed for Mikasa to free her? No, I really don't think so. I think, on the contrary, that Mikasa, yes, that Ymir probably saw that Mikasa was coming, and she was waiting all that time until she came. But let's say that she didn't know exactly when this would have happened. So Ymir had to wait for 2000 years, not because someone told her already, wait 2000 years, but because she hoped that the thing that she saw from the future would have happened. That's what I believe. As much as all of these other characters later were convinced by these visions from the future about what to do, I think that even Ymir saw in the future what would have happened, so she decided to keep going on with her own will until that person would have come to save her. I like here the fact that there are these footprints of Eren and Armin walking in the snow um, while they are talking, because these footprints that are touching the snow usually um, means a cold setting, right? um, a setting that is so still, so peaceful. In fact, if you notice, when it's snowing, usually you can sense peace, a peaceful mind, or the atmosphere that gives you those kind of vibes, so that everything is so still. I like, I personally like the choices of the background, because like for the lava that can represent the fire, that can represent these mixed feelings of anger that the protagonists can feel, like Eren and Ymir. But then we move to a background that is so still, that can give peace. And if you put these two together, you can understand even the confusion that Eren is having throughout the time, because one time he is angry, another time he feels peaceful, another time he feels angry once again. So not only we need to pay attention on what Eren says to Armin and vice versa, but I think that even the background, the setting can help us defining what's happening, and can describe the course of events little by little, how Eren experienced the things through time. So not only for Armin is a way to talk to Eren, this opportunity, but it's also an opportunity for Armin to understand, thanks to the setting, Eren's emotions through time. And everything is connected. That's why in anime you can choose colors, you can choose some sort of opposites that are clear visually speaking. In the manga, it's a little bit different. I mean, it's a little bit more difficult to represent all these kind of things. Or if the manga is colored, because there are times in which you see that the mangas, they have some colored pages and whatever, then in that case you can find the same things as for anime. But usually in anime they put those extra details that are mm, valuable, that can let you understand the things that otherwise you can't. And that's why I appreciate more anime than manga. But look, when I will be able to read the manga, probably in the manga there are some other details that maybe from volume one you can detect and you can discover some things that in the anime were not there. So even this comparison will be super interesting. I can't wait for that. Let's go on. Yeah, Eren says she kept searching for someone to release her, and finally they appeared. Um, let's say that Eren here is talking with a plural because he's saying, and finally they appeared. Let me see what he says immediately later. Okay, 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 okay. But he's using the plural when he says, and finally they appeared, and he's referring to the people who could help her to release her. Yes, in fact, I hope that what I'm trying to say is not wrong. The fact that Eren is using this plural and then he's focusing on Mikasa because he says that person was Mikasa. But when he says, yeah, she was desperately trying to find the people who could have understood her, etc., and they appeared. I think that he's referring to both of them. I mean, I think that Eren refers to himself, but even to Mikasa, because both of them, as much as I was telling you even in previous analysis, with their cooperation, they could make this dream of Ymir come true. I think that not only Mikasa was the one who saved Ymir, but it's also thanks to Eren that Mikasa could help her to defeat him and at the same time to free her. So, as you can see, I don't think that it's only Mikasa's help that was given here. I think that even Eren played a role of a helper to let Mikasa do what she was supposed to do. Though, of course, you know that Mikasa is one of my favorite characters, but I wanted to praise Eren to help Ymir reaching her goal. We can't say that Mikasa would have done everything by herself. No. So we needed to understand even these kind of things. If Mikasa reached that moment, it was because something happened before. And here, yes, you notice that Eren has short hair, but they are becoming a little bit longer. This refers to the moment when they discovered the ocean. He has the same haircut, as much as when in Paradise, they were arguing about how to communicate with the external world because they have discovered the fact that humanity is there too, and they didn't know if they had to attack Marley or not. That haircut represents that moment. So on one side, we have the Eren who made his dream partially come true because he discovered the ocean together with Armin and all the others. And on the other side, there was the fear of what to do. I mean, the way to choose properly what to do. Do you remember that even at that time when Eren was having these long and not too long hair, he was saying he was already trying to convince himself that the one and only thing to do was to attack the other side of the ocean. Also, because he was kissing Historia's hands already, so he had a complete, almost complete vision of what he was about to do. But at the same time, I remember the melancholy that he was representing in the moment they reached the ocean, and in the moment in which he understood that what Armin showed him in that book was completely true regarding these continents and regarding the ocean, because later they are even tasting the water of the ocean, and it's so salty, as much as Armin was telling him. And in fact, in that beautiful scene, Armin is saying to him, "Did you see, Eren? I was right when I was telling you those things." Of course, referring to the ocean and its characteristics. But yeah, I like that they use this haircut because Eren in that moment was not completely sure about what to do, because he was living in paradise still, and he didn't decide to move to Marley. Yes, he did it when he had that haircut, but let's say that for us as viewers, we see that he's leaving paradise after there is that debate between after they reach Marley, and there is this discussion between Marley and these representants from Paradise. But let's say that that haircut still represents Eren that keeps staying in Paradise. So I like that, as you can see, Armin through his time of memories, he beside Eren. I mean, he is standing next to Eren in all these visions, while later you will discover that Eren is confronting Armin because Armin will sit in front of him. But we will talk about this later. They are seeing the aurora because this is still a part of the dream. I mean, these aurora doesn't represent the paths, even if in some cases it might represent the paths that are connecting Ymir to all the others' descendants. But at the same time, yes, this aurora that is simply beautiful represents even the continent of ice that Eren and Armin wanted to reach and wanted to discover in the rest of the world. Um, I like the setting, yeah. And then Armin is realizing that he heard why Mikasa. But if you noticed, let me see if I can go back for a second. Yes, if you see, Armin is still like a boy when while Eren is grown already, Armin seems to be the boy, okay, that is younger than Eren in this vision. But we can connect this thing with the tree too, the scene of the tree when Armin says that Eren reaches the tree first, and then he will be the last one. We can refer these, metaphorically speaking, also to the fact that Eren reached a certain knowledge before Armin, because for Armin it took time. More time than Eren. Eren, by having these founding Titans' power and the ability of the Shingeki no Kyojin to coexist through time, he could gain more knowledge rather than Armin could. And that's why you see even Eren growing more, I mean, growing up and have a different haircut, while Armin seems to be that young boy, younger than Eren, who still has the same clothes, who still has the same hairstyle, etc., etc. But little by little, you will see that even Armin, at the end of this dialogue, is changing his haircut, and it comes back to the present time. So I like that there is even this difference while Eren is revealing him that Mikasa is the one who has been chosen, and you see that Eren is older. He seems to be older than Armin, while Armin is still some. I mean, he is representing some years before, as if they want you to understand even the difference of knowledge acquired that makes a difference, because Armin, for Armin, it will take more time. And in fact, Armin, even if Eren reached a certain knowledge, Armin is asking him about why Mikasa, and Eren confirms him these partial knowledge that he has, and not entirely, because if Eren knew the motivation that Ymir had towards Mikasa, he would have had a complete knowledge of all things. But as you can see, his knowledge seems to be limited. And in fact, even in this case, he's answering, I mean, look, I don't know. I mean, only the founder, Ymir, knows that. So as you can see, Eren is not showing this almighty knowledge that he acquired thanks to the founding Titan, because the founding Ymir, only her can have, only she can have these ultimate knowledge. And even if someone tries to get in touch with it, I'm talking about Eren and Zeke because they both tried to do so, they can't reach it completely, because no one of these people can understand her experience 100%. And that's why they are limited even to get in touch with her will and her wishes. See? And then he is saying, I still don't know what Mikasa did. So this uncertainty, the Eren understands that he can't understand everything. And even this sad face when he's saying something like this, I mean, I don't understand what Mikasa did. I don't know what Mikasa did. I mean, he is asking himself, why Mikasa too? So, as you can see, not only Armin doesn't understand what's going on, but even Eren in that moment reflects about this, and he's understanding that there's no way he can find an answer. Hmm? What I knew for certain is that the outcome Mikasa brought about is what I kept moving forward to reach. Oh, finally we reach to this sentence that makes you understand why Eren started the rumbling. He pushed himself so much because he knew, as a personal instinct, that what was doing was helping Mikasa in the final result of all these things, that was even colliding with Ymir's will. This is so important because even if Eren didn't understand why Mikasa was chosen, something was telling him that what he was doing was right, because in order for Mikasa to reach that goal, he had to move forward, and he felt that by moving forward, Mikasa would have made this dream, let's say, come true, this purpose come true. Of course, we know that thanks to Mikasa and what she did now, that means killing him, could help humanity to get rid of Titans. And this is connecting exactly with episode 2, season 1, when Eren stands up, and he is uh, for sure. I mean, he is so sure, but surely he is stating his purpose, his real purpose of everything. That is, I will exterminate all Titans from this world. So, as you can see, Mikasa, by killing him, could make it, because the Titan's power is over in the moment in which Eren is killed as a founding Titan. Then this thing brings also Ymir to a final goal for her too, that is to be free, to end this slavery for 2000 years based on these Titans' powers. And these Titans' powers were born because of her resilience to not confront King Fritz, and to not being able to rebel to him. So the fact that Ymir was causing all of this mess, and she should uh, take all of the responsibility of everything that happened, but actually, yes, because if she was standing against King Fritz at that time, probably things would have gone differently. Probably she wouldn't have been eaten by her daughters, and this curse of the Titans would have not gone on generations after generations. So, because of her choice to step back and serve King Fritz, all of this mess happened, and Eren was just a mere sacrifice to be able to be sure, thanks to his courage, to eliminate these Titans' power, even if these would have meant to sacrifice some people for these. Um, of course, we don't need to forget that together with these good plan to exterminate the Titan's power from Earth, we also have that typical human side of revenge that is coexisting with this plan. Not only Eren, for revenge, wants to exterminate all the Titans from Earth, but Eren, always for revenge, wants to take his revenge on the people who were always considering Paradise people as demons, that is, the rest of the world. So these two things are going parallel. I mean, they are two parallel paths. And we shouldn't forget of one of these two, because this revenge was divided into two purposes. That little by little, one came true 100%, the other didn't come true 100%. But as I was telling you yesterday, if Eren wanted that his friends became heroes, or that these friends would have felt recognized by the rest of humanity, left as people who are good and not demons, etc., etc. Even Eren knew that he didn't exterminate all humanity, or that he knew that he would have been stopped somehow, so that Armin and all the others could have been proclaimed as saviors of humanity. So, as you can see, people who are saying that Eren wanted to exterminate all humanity, yeah, the desire was that. I mean, if he had to follow his inner feelings, full of revenge, for sure this would have been the right option. But he was, I don't want to say stopped, but he was stopping his instincts, also because of his friends and how his friends would have turned out in front of humanity, the humanity left. So I think that Eren saw from the future these. He saw that Armin would have become what he became. Sorry. And at the same time, Eren could reach the goal, the principal goal. Let's say his first goal was reached completely, to erase the Titans from Earth. Yes, this thing became true thanks to Mikasa. So when Eren is saying, I did what I did because my instinct was telling me that by moving forward, Mikasa would have had the chance to fulfill Ymir's will. Actually, he made it. Now we understand why every time he wanted to move forward, it was not only because he had the intention of becoming a mass murderer, but also because something was telling him that going on doing this thing, he could have reached the goal of the first season, that is, to eradicate all the Titans. And by doing this, even his revenge would have been fulfilled 50%, let's say. I slaughtered humanity. So he is sincere here. He doesn't go back with his words. He is saying honestly that he slaughtered humanity. And the way in which he's saying it, with his face, because we don't have to forget the face that he's making while he's saying those things. He has a pretty sad face, a face that is not happy with what he has done. Then the fact that this instinct was predominant, and this instinct couldn't be pushed away, because uh, that feeling was controlling his rationality, his reason, then it's quite evident. But the face speaks for itself. I slaughtered humanity, caused aliens to kill each other on Paradise. Think about it, on Paradise. To these aliens, yes, that you see even in season 4, part 2, the aliens coming from the other side of the ocean trying to beat Paradise, and the aliens in the Paradise that they are fighting each other. Wow. Or even, yes, when there are other memories in which you see that the aliens are going against the aliens of a Paradise. Do you remember even Grisha's dad that is convincing Grisha that is convincing Zeke, etc., etc., etc. So as you can see, um, all these, but even Karina, yes, Karina is another example. She's an alien living in Marley that wants to kill all these demons in paradise. So the aliens that they are fighting one against the other one for the sake of someone else. And dragged my dear friends into combat. So in this moment, Eren is analyzing all his sins, what he did to let this instinct reach that goal. He is saying basically that he stepped on everyone to make this instinct prevail and make the goal come true. As if not only he feels guilty, but also you understand how a human being is able to reach a certain brutality or a certain reaction that is creating actions. Then that and the all these can step on, dear people, morality, yes, let's say moral values, um, the ethics, everything that we should condemn, right? But human beings sometimes are, can become, not are, can become so mean that and so selfish that they don't see anything else. They follow their instinct. And when this instinct prevails on the situation, nothing can change his mind, because that thing that was happening to him caused him such a huge trauma, and this trauma can let him step on everything or on everyone. This is what I told you yesterday by making this parallelism with the real world. When you are too selfish to believe that your ideals are better than the rest of the world or what the rest of the world thinks, when you think that your ideals can step on the moral values to let you believe that what you do is right and what everyone else is doing is wrong, you try to elevate yourself in a way that no one seems that can contrast you. This elevation that is made by yourself um, creates already problems. Like in our real world, we see that some people's decisions can create wars in the world. But why wars are created? Is it because that's what people want? No, it's because of some of these people's presumptuous feelings, selfish feelings, to to be promoted as something good to do. And these people who create wars don't even think about the consequences, don't think about what's left after. They, in that moment, the people in real world, I mean, I'm talking our existence, I mean our earth, when people create, those people create wars, they are doing these because they are following their instinct, their belief that they are superior than others and that they can decide whatever it is in the world, because they can be presidents, because they are following a specific protocol or agenda, because they know what they have to do. But these people, even in our world, these people who are creating wars are multiple or they are just a few? They are a few. And these people who create wars, do they want to feel to follow their principles or what's good to do? No, they follow their principles. Um, do they feel guilty because of what they do? They can say that they are guilty, but as soon as they do so, they are guilty and they are not regretting what they do. This is what happens with Eren, even if Eren is confused by a power that he got in touch with that is not only confusing him mentally speaking, but he is confusing him about his actions too, because he is making these actions by being confused mentally speaking, because he is coexisting through time and he is seeing simultaneously speaking lots of scenes all together that make him turn into a crazy person, into a person that completely lost his mind. So when you lose your mind, you don't understand what's right and what's wrong to do. You don't understand what's the proper choice to make or not. You follow your instinct. And if the instinct was to help Mikasa doing what she was supposed to do, even if he didn't know what that thing was, he loves Mikasa, so it's good for him to keep moving forward until Mikasa will reach that goal. Is that the goal to exterminate Titans? Yes. Is Mikasa's goal to be able to live without him? Yes. So, as you can see, let's say that Eren was a little bit stupid, not a little bit stupid, because he did what he did based on his instinct, based on something that he didn't know. I mean, it's like as if in a real world they tell me, look, do this thing, and you do it because you think that you're doing something right, but I will not tell you why. You do it first, and then I will tell you why, maybe. But do it, even if you don't know. There is no need for you to know. See, this is stupid if you think about it. Maybe Eren thought, I mean, something was telling him that what he was doing was completely correct. But the fact that he is explaining, even the fact that uh, he did this because of something that he didn't know what that thing was, that's ridiculous. He was convincing himself that what he was doing was right because of something that he didn't know. Ridiculous. But this thing to move forward, if on one hand you can see this characteristic as a stubbornness, that means if a person is stubborn, it's not indicating necessarily something negative. When a person is stubborn to pursue his or her goal, it's something positive. When you keep struggling to reach your goal, and when you want your goal to come true and you're stubborn and you move forward until this goal is reached, yes, this way of seeing things is pretty beautiful. But on the other side, when you keep moving forward, being presumptuous that that's the right thing just because you feel it, and based on something you don't know, but anyway, let's move forward. This is stupid, because he didn't have, Eren didn't have clearly in his mind that what he was doing actually was something good because he knew even the reason. when you do some things, it's because you are moved by a reason, or you should do so. In real life, it should be like this. I do this thing because I have a reason for doing these things. But Eren is doing these things without knowing the reason. He's doing them this because something tells him that is okay. You also find this ridiculous, right? Um, it's also true that he could see some things from the future. But if you remember, he says that he tried his best to change the things without being able to modify things to make them be better. So it always depends on what Eren saw from the future. If he saw maybe the ending scene clearly, or he saw some fragments, but as you can see, how can you do some things based on a few fragments that you see? Let's say, as much as I was telling you months ago, it's like as if Eren made the same mistake as Grisha. Grisha saw some scenes from the future, not everything. But just because this Eren from the future told him to do so, and by knowing that this son from the future told him to do so, he felt as if he had to trust this son from the future. All of us would have trusted this instinct that we feel inside, that it is produced by our son or daughter of the future telling us to do some things like this for the sake of everyone. But Grisha didn't see Carla dying. Grisha didn't see how Eren became. Yes, he saw it and he said later in front of Zeke that it was simply disgusting what he saw. But when he was killing the race family, for a second, he didn't think, but wait a second, okay, that I'm following these things that this Eren from the future is saying, but don't I have any sort of doubts that what I'm doing is going against the moral values? And in fact, Grisha stopped at that time because of these things. But later, unfortunately, he was not convinced enough by these moral values, but he preferred to be convinced about these negative feelings that he felt throughout his life. So, as you can see, the convictions that make you make mistakes or make you create something that will take you to a mistake for sure. When you are too convinced about something, you don't think that you can make a mistake, even if you will make it. And those convictions make you think that what you think is totally right, and nothing else can prove you wrong. That's what happened with Eren. These feelings that made him go ahead because the instinct told him to do so, first of all, made him make lots of mistakes. And second of all, convinced him as much as his father was convinced to do things that later he discovered that all he did was just losing things and not gaining anything. Yes, maybe the only thing he gained was the fact that Titan's powers are erased from the world. But what else did he gain? I mean, Eren, what Eren gain from this experience? Only suffering, only tremendous regretful feelings. And that's the problem. When you think that you can be on top of others, pretending to know everything just because you have a certain power, stability, or status, I'm talking about the real life too, hey, you will fail because these presumptuous way to exhibit this power you have in front of the world make you feel a demon. I mean, make you feel on the wrong side, make people feel disgusted, and make people feel as if they don't trust you anymore. You lose credibility, you lose trust, you lose the love that you can have from your dear people, and you become a nightmare for others. Look, even our real world, with all these wars that are happening just because of a few people who are deciding for the rest of the world. We as the common people are not satisfied. We as common people are disgusted by what these people are choosing nowadays for us. And these are people who are choosing some certain things to promote wars everywhere in the world. They lack of our trust already. And they sound as if they are almighty enough to be put on top of others to decide for us when it's not right. We know that what these people feel doesn't represent what we really want. That's why I'm saying that Eren thinks that by having this knowledge, he can be better than others. He can think that he is too presumptuous to believe that his choices were the best choices ever. That was the only option that would have made. That everything that he was saying he was correct, while what others were saying or promoting were too utopistic. I also said in the past that Armin's decisions were too utopistic, but that doesn't mean that we can't find our other compromises. But Eren didn't put in his mind the chance of finding compromises because he was too convinced. So instead of saying that Eren is a slave of freedom, I think that Eren was a slave of his convictions that made him do and made him believe that everything that he was doing was correct. But as you can see, we are reaching the end of his life. And when you're reaching the end of your life, you, let's say, try to understand if what you were doing so far was actually correct. If you did the right thing, and especially if what you believed so far was coherent with what you wanted to do, etc., etc., etc. So, the Eren that is saying all these things right now, we should remind ourselves that the Eren is talking now has already seen how his story will end. That means his death. So, by knowing how it will go on, anyway, he doesn't want to refrain himself from saying that he was wrong, even if these convictions are too predominant. He is. It's like as if he is still in time to express how he felt throughout all this time, so that Armin can understand this, Armin can treasure this, and Eren will not die by giving Armin a mischievous idea of what he was. Eren, I think that he will feel better if Armin knows what was going on. And even the fact that no matter how he felt, because not only he was stepping on his friends, not only he was stepping on humanity, not only he was stepping on moral values, but he was also stepping on himself. Because even if he knew that he was right, anyway, he thought that that right thing had to happen, so he kept moving forward. Also, because I tell you one more thing, something like this: if Eren regretted completely what he did, he would have let Armin remember those things at that time when he had to remember them. But it didn't happen. Eren wants that Armin recollects his memories when he's already gone. So Eren wants this also because he needs a punishment for all the things that he did. By recognizing that he was doing something wrong, it was wrong for Eren's point of view to have been forgiven so easily. He had to be punished for the things that he did. So his death is the right thing to do, because if he kept going on living, probably he would have kept going on thinking that what he was doing was right. I mean, he would have kept following his convictions. But by being killed, he was also being free from these cage of convictions and from this instinct, premature instinct that caused him lots a disaster, that caused him a life that was tremendous. So we needed to remember these. Eren promotes his punishment. Eren wants that Armin, or let's say Mikasa, is killing him because he deserves punishment for the fact that his convictions were causing him a state of mind that he couldn't control. And he needs to be punished also because of how presumptuous he feels to think that everything deserves to be stepped on because of his convictions. So Eren is not preventing himself from dying. Eren is not asking Armin to not kill him. No, he wants to be killed because that's the right thing to do. And then he wanted to step on his friends without ever knowing whether they would survive. So this is the third statement of Eren, in which we understand that Eren doesn't know anything. Or let's say he knew some things, some few things, small things from the future, but he couldn't see the most important things. As much as Grisha couldn't see anything about Carla and her conditions, because even Grisha is saying, Eren, show me at least Carla and show me that she's fine. Eren doesn't even know if their friends will survive. So, in all these things, in all these dialogue, you understand all the mess of confusion that Eren had to handle. His side of a personality that he liked it, but then this side of a personality caused him troubles. This fear of the unknown because he doesn't know if his friends will survive or not, but who cares, because these convictions that I have are more important, and if I have this instinct, I am too presumptuous to think that if I have this instinct, it means that he's right, so let's go on. He has this confusion because even if he tries to change things, he sees that the story is already written, so he can't change it. I mean, and then he is too stupid to do things without a reason because that reason is unknown. He doesn't know this reason, but who cares? Because yes, my convictions are the best, so let's move forward. This character is complex because of this. The character of Eren is amazing because it's a clear representation of how a human being is. It's a concentration of sides of a personality of a human being. I mean, Eren, throughout these seasons, he is showing you, especially in the last season, how complicated we are, also for ourselves. How sometimes we can't explain to ourselves first and then to others our intentions, our convictions, our behavior. We are complicated. And sometimes it's hard even for us to explain ourselves. And most of the times, what we are convinced that it's right is automatically wrong. Or sometimes what we believe that we are is automatically contrasting with what we really are. Just because we believe we are some way, that doesn't mean that it's correct. It's because we are convinced that we are like this. But are we sure that we are like this? Who gives us the guarantee that we are like this? Who gives us this assurance about what we are? Not even ourselves can explain sometimes what we are and how we are, because most of our brain is unknown. We can't even describe 75% of our brain. We are mysterious to ourselves. So, of course, even for Eren, everything was a mystery. And also for Eren, sometimes it was hard to describe what he did because he also didn't know why he was doing it. But Eren is amazing as a character because he is representing exactly what we are, with all our sort of personalities, with all our behaviors that we have based on the context, the fact that we are right when we think that we are right, we are wrong. The fact that when we think that we are too convinced to make a decision, then this assurance fades away. The way in which we are presumptuous to believe that we know everything when we don't know anything, maybe. I mean, we, yes, are slaves of instinct because we, as human beings, are ruled by instinct. Some other times, yes, we are ruled by our mind, I mean, by reason, but most of the times we are following our instincts. And our instincts, unfortunately, it's like as if they are controlling our mind so much that these instincts can cause us trouble later. It's like when we are angry and our instinct is predominant, and sometimes we are saying things we don't want to say. Some other times, thanks to this instinct, when we are angry, we choose to do something that we actually didn't want to do. Yes, even when we are angry, that sometimes we say, oh, I said those things because I was angry, not because I really meant it. Do you know? Eren did the same things. He was blind because of this revenge, that he was doing things like this. Did he really mean to cause all these disaster to humanity? Sincerely, I don't think so. I really don't think so. Was he doing these things because of this instinct that was based on his anger, making him do all these bad things? Yes. Yes, because when you're angry, you don't use reason. When you're angry, you follow your instinct. And when you follow your instinct, sometimes you do things that they are undescribable. And that's why I don't think that Eren was born being evil. Not at all. Eren felt angry because he experienced negative things in his life. Anger plus anger plus anger plus anger can let you turn into a demon on earth. But it's the anger that makes you become this. If that moment in episode 1, season 1 didn't happen, I don't think that if Eren discovered the other side of the ocean would have had the same intention. Probably yes, probably no. Probably yes, because he will understand that they are confined in paradise because the rest of the world wants to go against aliens. But probably not, because if all those things in season 1 didn't happen, probably he would have followed Armin. He would have followed Armin's choice to try to communicate, to try to let these people from the other side of the world change their mind. We will never know what would have happened if in episode 1 Bertold and Reiner didn't break the walls. That anger that derived from that moment, plus all the anger that he collected throughout the time, made him surely create an instinct that was evil. But did he start having that evil instinct from the beginning? But no, no, absolutely no. I mean, not in my opinion. That's the future you saw at the medal ceremony. Ceremony, yes, when he kissed the Historia's hand. Oh, Eren is saying my head has become a total mess. One of the effects of the founding Titan's power is that there is no past or future. Exactly. It all exists. And so I had no choice. That day, in that moment, Bertold had to stay alive. Okay, this is the culmination of the story. So Eren is saying that because of his confusion, he forced Dinah Fritz Titan to spare Bertold, because if Bertold was killed, I mean, if Bertold was eaten by Dinah Fritz, the story would have been completely different. First of all, because Armin could have not become the Colossal Titan. But second of all, because Dinah Fritz would have not create this trauma in Eren. And if there was not a trauma, this way to push going forward would have never happened. And the Titan's power probably would have never been erased. So I think this scene is quite memorable. I wanted to stop myself for a second and analyze this scene because even if I will not reach the thumbnail today, who cares? Because on Monday I will reach it for sure. Maybe I will delete this thumbnail and I will modify it. We are reaching the moment in which Eren is telling us that that eating Carla seems to be his choice. I mean, it seems that he chose to direct Dinah Fritz Titan to Carla so she could eat her. For a second, let's understand. Look, yes, when it will be 2 hours of live streaming, I will modify probably the thumbnail if I didn't finish yet. So let's analyze these things in different ways because I think it's important if we stop for a second and we think. Okay, so if we wanted to see it in this first way, later I'm going to tell you the other point of view. If we wanted to see it in one way, Eren now doesn't even know what he is saying. Because Eren is anticipating that he is completely confused. That time is coexisting, and Armin, for the first time, is understanding Eren's pain that derives from this power. If I repeat you this, if I put myself in Eren's position and I find past, present, and future all simultaneously speaking together, it means that there is not a logic in scenes that I see in my mind from the past, from the present, and even from the future. There is not a logical sequence of things, but there is everything jumping in my mind randomly all the time. Because if time coexists, it means that this condition, mental condition, it's not stopping. So it's like as if in front of Eren's eyes, there are scenes continuing all over, all over, all over, all over. It's like as if you can't control anything because the mind is bombed of continued scenes that keep repeating in Eren's mind over and over and over and over again without an end. So for a second, I open a bracket. When he is in front of the mirror and he is saying tatakae, tatakae, at this point, when I was analyzing that episode years ago, I was saying that tatakae, tatakae could have meant go forward, even if you make meaningful things, you wanted to move forward, right? Because even if you know how bad you have become, your instinct or convictions, I told you the same things years ago, are more important than anything else as a Shingeki no Kyojin. But I remember that at that time I was also telling you, you can even go and check it. I mean, it's on the channel, that Tatakae in front of the mirror was a way to convince himself that what he was doing was right. It was like as if there was a contrast between Eren and the Eren of the mirror, and the Eren of the mirror represents Eren's instinct that tried to convince the Eren looking at the mirror to fight because that was the right thing to do. It was like as if the mirror was convincing him, was putting a spell on him, convincing him, Tatakai, 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 brainwashing him that that thing was the right thing to do. But if we follow this interpretation, it means, especially at that time, that Eren is confronting the mirror, Eren is confused already about what to do. So in that moment, Eren needs someone or something that it means his self to comfort him, to reassure him of the things that he has done and tell him, you're doing right. Keep Tatakai, Tatakai, because you're doing the right thing. But in that moment, Eren was having a completely confused state of mind because all these scenes from past, present, and future were unlimited because they kept going on. Do you remember Bruce Almighty, the movie with Jim Carrey, for example? At a certain moment, Jim Carrey is having the power of God for 1 week. And in that moment that he has that power of God for 1 week, he is hearing the prayers of all the common people praying to God, and his brain was so confused, so altered, that he couldn't even handle all those prayers in one. And that's why he said, oh my, God's job is not easy at all. Because how can he follow? I mean, how he can follow all these prayers? How he can listen to all these people simultaneously talking to him? A human being can't handle a power like that, right? The same for Eren. Eren can't handle a power like this where time coexists because human beings are not supposed to live three things in one. They need a logical sequence of time. From A you pass to B, from B you pass to C, etc., etc., etc. There's no way that A, B, C coexist. It's not logical from our mind's perspective, for sure. It's impossible. We are being put in this dimension to live one thing at a time. So we can't handle something that is not requested for us to live. Eren, unfortunately, at the beginning, few days maybe, he could handle this thing by, even if he was the founding titan from the moment in which he ate Grisha. But as you could see, as much as it required time for titans to regain their body after the transformation, and as much as for all the titans owners required time to handle the power they got, Eren at the beginning was fine, but when he touched Historia's hand, something collapsed. He couldn't handle it anymore. So what I'm trying to say is that now, in Eren's mind, you should think as if past, present, and future are simultaneously coexisting forever. That means that there is not a time to take a break. Everything is always connecting all the times in one. How can you not turn crazy with that experience? It's impossible that you are not going to be crazy for this. This is a fantasy story, so we should just put ourselves in Eren's position in the moment he says, I am confused throughout all this time because time coexists in my mind. So he doesn't have even the right time to stop. It's like when you go to an amusement park and you go and you ride a roller coaster forever. It's never ending. I mean, it goes up and down and it never stops. Don't you feel drunk? Don't you feel sick? I would have felt sick if the roller coaster doesn't stop anymore. Eren is living these three things in one for all the time. It's a problem. Mentally speaking, is destroying its mind. And at the same time, we are reaching a scene that is really important. This scene, yes, I closed now the bracket of the digression of the Tatakai to let you understand what I meant 2 years ago, but even to let you understand why I think these things, especially now that I saw Eren's character's revelations. We go on seeing this thing in one way. Eren thinks that he was the cause of Carla's death by sending Dinah Fritz away from Bertold. Yes, I mean, Eren forced Dinah Fritz to move away from Bertold because if Dinah Fritz ate Bertold, Dinah Fritz would have become the Colossal Titan, and she was no more a non-intelligent Titan. She would have become an intelligent Titan. But this means that even Armin would have never became the Colossal Titan. And if Eren wanted Armin as the savior of humanity, this would have never been possible, no matter if Armin later agrees or not. And this is already a problem. I already explained you in the previous analysis. I mean, the fact that Eren doesn't let Armin choose what he wants to do, it's pretty incoherent. He wants to take his friends as puppets, to make them become the savior of humanity, and Armin has to say, okay, I agree, I will do it. This reminds me pure slavery. I tell you what to do and you do it. You talk about freedom, but then you want to put your friends inside this cage where they have to play the role of the saviors of humanity. You decided, we do. That's not the freedom. That's why I appreciated that Armin said the contrary, that he went against this Eren's principle, this Eren's idea. He said, look, Eren, you wanted this, but we don't agree with you. We don't want to be the saviors of humanity, the heroes. Sorry, not the saviors, the heroes. Because look at Heros. Heros was put over there faking that he saved the other side of the ocean in that moment by defeating the Titans, but then we understand that everything was orchestrated, that was planned to make Heros be the hero. And they don't want to do this. Because if they do this, they repeat exactly what happened before. So where is the difference? So the fact that Armin rebels to this, I really appreciate it. But at the same time, you understand already the incoherence of Eren, because he promotes the freedom for his friends and everything, but then he's forcing his friends to become something they don't want to become. But then, close the bracket. Anyway, Armin would have not become the Colossal Titan, so in Eren's opinion, he would have not saved humanity, so it was a problem. Then we can talk about probable story if Dinah Fritz was saved. I mean, if Dinah Fritz didn't eat Carla, but we will do it later. In my opinion, if we follow this vision of the story, as if Eren is condemning himself to have let Dinah Fritz eat his mom, it's not 100% true. I mean, from my perspective, Eren, yes, didn't want Bertold to be eaten, but actually didn't want to let his mother die in that way. Let's say that it was a unfortunate coincidence that Dinah Fritz later would have gone deeper inside over there, and she found Carla. But I think that in this case, when he says things like this, Eren in this moment is making another mistake that is based on the same things. That means convictions. Now, Eren is almost convinced, following all these coexisting memories of these. But I don't think so. It was just an unfortunate event that happened. But Eren right now, when he's thinking these things, is confused. He is seeing things or thinking things based on this coexistence of time. So it's obvious that he's confused and he's saying these absurd things. He feels probably guilty. Absolutely. Because by choosing Bertold to be alive, he indirectly caused his mother's death? Yes. But the fact that he definitely wanted his mother dying because he had to save Bertold, because everything was meaningful, I don't want to think about that. But it's good that we make even this other option, because we are here analyzing. So I can't follow my instinct. If we check things from another perspective, if Eren wanted to let Bertold survive, and even Bertold was speechless at that time. Do you remember? I mean, he was like, why is not this Titan eat me? Why is not eating me? What's wrong here? And then I tell you another thing. By the way, yes. Now, because I'm thinking about what to say later. So for a second, I was just thinking. And later, you see that Carla dies in that way that we all know. So we needed to think about another vision of the things. If it's true I mean, if what Eren states is true, that means I wanted to save Bertold, I decided to save Bertold so that Dinah Fritz would have entered the breach to eat my mother. If this is correct, he did it just because of one reason at this point. Because if he saw from the future that this would have helped the story go on in a certain way to reach the end that we know, this means that he would have sacrificed his mother for the sake of the last goal. That is to eradicate all the Titans from Earth and to be able to let humanity live without Titans. Or to reach even the goal that Armin would have been, of course, the savior of humanity, so the hope for the future, let's say. Also because everything has to make a cycle, right, of events. And everything has a consequence from the actions made. So if Carla was not dying in that way, and if Carla didn't lose her life, Eren would have not started his personal story of revenge, and probably they couldn't reach Ymir somehow, thanks to all these future events. So if just if Eren did these things on purpose, he wanted to let this story be written in a certain way to reach the goal. Does this mean that Eren is evil? But if we check this story from a certain point of view, absolutely yes, because as much as I told you before, he stepped on everything to let that goal happen. So it could be possible. But if this means that Eren is evil, only in this way I can accept when people say Eren was evil since he was born. Otherwise, I can't accept it. I can't imagine that Eren projected this. I prefer to believe that as an unfortunate event, Dinah was going that way and caused what she caused. Also because for years after that trauma happened, Eren was still talking about his mom. Eren was still thinking about his mom. Mom, what would you think now? I mean, if I am evil and I wanted to step on my mother's life to create, to project what I really want to reach, I don't think about my mother anymore, sincerely, because who cares, right? But the fact that Eren keeps thinking about his mother, maybe he thinks about her as a regret because of the choice that he made. Maybe also he's thinking about his mom because he knows that happened couldn't be stopped by him, even if he tried. And he was just a slave of his convictions that makes him reminding himself of his mom that she would have been totally against him, of course. But yeah, I'm trying to think right now because this scene is majestic. I mean, this scene Dinah Fritz eating Carla is one of the most important moments of the story, and as a paradox is the beginning of the story, the beginning that is influencing the end, and this end that is influenced by this first scene, first episode. Amazing, this cycle of events, again, again, again. But let me think if I can think of something else right now, because now that I have time to think about this scene, um, I was thinking of something else now. What if that Titan? No, I'm thinking about something else because in order for Ymir to reach Mikasa, some things should have been happening, right? So now I'm saying something stupid, but it's good that I give you, as always, all the options that I think, just to entertain ourselves. What if Ymir influenced Dinah Fritz to go and reach Carla, to eat Carla, so that Eren could create this goal in his mind that was the same goal that Ymir and Eren had in common, to exterminate the Titans forever. So even Ymir had the chance to control non-intelligent Titans. We saw it even later when she's englobing Zik, when she's englobing Armin because of a Titan. So even Ymir can control non-intelligent Titans, because also Ymir was the founding Titan, and also Ymir could have this power to have time coexisting. So she could probably influence at that time, going to the future, some events. Why she could have done something like this? Because she had to reach her goal too. And also because she had to reach someone that could have saved her, that could have reached her. If Eren couldn't see his mother dying, there was no probability that he could reach Ymir. So what if Ymir influenced Dinah Fritz as a non-intelligent Titan that day to move to the Jaeger's house, find Carla and eat Carla? But I'm also thinking of a season 2, because when Dinah Fritz as a Titan is eating Hannes, Eren in that moment he's saying, talking to his mother, "Mom, I I keep trying to let me see that scene. Let me watch that scene because it's memorable. I mean, now that the scene can be seen in a different way. Hannes' death. Yes. Exactly. Okay. Okay, but let's move a little bit on. I mean, here it might seem as if Eren wants to take his revenge on Dinah Fritz Titan because of everything that happened to Carla. But no, wait. Let me go back. Wait, there is a moment in which we are rewatching the season two for a second. There is a moment in which Eren is trying to transform, and he tries until a moment in which it's like as if he's doing something like this. He's looking at his hand, and then he's saying, "Huh?" Here, try to hear. It's like as if he is saying, "What am I doing?" He's like, "Huh?" Okay, and then they are fighting. They just move forward for a second. This is terrible. Even in that case, we thought that Eren couldn't transform because he was regenerating and because he didn't have enough time. But what if even that moment in which he couldn't transform was planned? Because if he transformed, Hannes would have survived. So even the pain of losing him would have never happened. And even so this means anger and more anger added. And at the same time, if he transformed into a titan, probably, yes, he would have touched the Dynafritz, but maybe that the thing that happened later would have not happened. Do you understand what I mean? So even Eren is asking himself, why I can't transform into a titan? Of course, we thought, and maybe it's true, that he doesn't transform into a titan for the reason that I told you. But if we try to see the story in a different way now, wow. And now, See, nothing changed. You are useless as always. Oh no, here in this video, there is not the moment in which he is talking to his mother. Let's say, ah, yes, yes, here we go. Maybe this one. Okay, okay, okay. You were you're still as useless as you have ever were. Because if we try to understand that Eren tried to change the story many times, but he couldn't. This is coherent. See, Mom, I can't. I still can't do anything at all. Is he talking about the fact that at that time he couldn't stop that moment in which it was chosen that she would have been dead, that she would die? Is it because of that unfortunate choice that he made to let Bertold survive? That when he's saying, Mom, I can't change anything at all. I can't still change anything at all. Because he knows that from that decision to keep Bertold alive, something unfortunate happened. But in that case, Hannes died because he couldn't transform. And he did. I mean, was it impossible for him to transform because of the time that a Titan owner requires to transform again, or because something interfered over there too? So he couldn't transform, so he could collect other negativity, so he touched the Dinah's Fritz hand, and the story went on and on and on. Because Eren is always touching this royal bloodline when he is not a Titan. He is touching Dinah Fritz when he can't transform. And then, yes, then the hand appears and he's launching the Titans, but before he's touching with his hand, with his punch, Dinah Fritz. But even for Historia, he is touching Historia's hand when he is not a Titan, when he is a human being. And all these things are happening. So, yeah, this scene is memorable. I love it so much. But now that we are analyzing this scene, where Bertold was spared and Dinah entered Shiganshina to reach something. But let's say that the non-intelligent Titans, they look for people, right? They try to find the people. But I don't think that Dinah was controlled by Eren. Maybe she was controlled by something else. Hmm. I mean, I gave you both options. If Eren wanted to step even on everything, as much as he stepped on his own self and his moral values, as much as he stepped on his friends, and as much as he stepped on all humanity, probably he was becoming so evil to influence even that moment to reach a goal. But some minutes ago, he was saying that he was doing this without even knowing the result, without even knowing if his friends would have survived. That he did what he did based on a reason that he didn't even know. So, if we discover that Eren was stepping even on his mother's life because of the plan to follow, even if he didn't know what the plan, what the final goal was, it could be probable too. Yes, I mean, at this point we know that how Eren is incoherent, and from the moment he kisses Historia's friends, Historia's hands, no, not because his revenge only, but also because he was coexisting through time, and this confusion was misgiving him. But, 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 wow, this is beautiful. This scene is amazing. When we see that as much as Eren is trying to convince himself that he did what he did to Carla, Armin, that is representing here rationality, stops him and he says, let's go, Eren. Even this moment is so important because we are understanding that on one hand, rationality is prevailing on instinct or conviction that is guided by instinct. It's like as if reason is telling Eren, look, it's not how you think. It's better if you stop thinking like this because you didn't plan your mother's death. Maybe that was something unfortunate happening. And I like that Armin that is represented with this blonde hair. It's like as if in this moment he is his guardian angel. I mean, this protector that is waking Eren up little by little. I like this choice as much as I like that he's touching his hand, because we know that Armin throughout these seasons was the one who was waking Eren up. So Armin has always had this power to let Eren go back to reality, to help Eren to use reason rather than instinct only. And that's why I think that he is the best choice for this final dialogue. But I also like, if we see things in another way, as if Armin understood that this is right. I mean, that this is happening, that what happened to Carla really happened because of what Eren said. But in order to help Eren skip his mind from that, he is stopping that thought to protect his friend from his own thoughts, to protect Eren from the reality that happened, and to protect Eren from himself thinking so evil things. That maybe they could be correct, but Right now, Armin, as much as for what he's doing later, he's trying to comfort his friend. He's playing the role of the best friend, that even if a friend can behave wrongly, a best friend is always there to try to comfort him, to scold him, but even to stay there and not go away, to accept a friend not only in good moments, but even in tremendous moments. A friend is a good friend when he or she stays, even if you make mistakes, even if you cause the troubles, right? Otherwise, you can't consider a friend a good friend. If a friend is escaping, if a friend goes away from you because you make mistakes, that can't be considered as a good friend, right? So, as you can see, even in this case, you see multiple interpretations possible. But I prefer to believe that Armin is representing reason, was waking Eren up from that constant thought. And you could see how Eren was almost convinced of everything that happened until Armin is scolding him, is shaking him, saying, Eren, let's go. To run away from that thought, too. Pretty powerful. Yeah, and the face that Armin makes is the typical face of a friend that tries to comfort the friend. Wow. And that is so miserable that he says, ah. Armin that is ready to accept Eren no matter if he turned into a mass murderer. A friend that goes beyond, that promotes acceptance or love, that is the right key to make a change in this case, used by Armin, made me feel really emotional, and made him, even Eren, feel emotional. And then we reach another moment in which Eren has different hair, because now Eren has the hair of the moment in which he chose already to go to Liberio for 4 years, and he has chosen to start the rambling. So even if they are in front of the ocean, that was one of the main goals that they could reach together, and in which Armin thought that they could have been happy. From this moment on, the let's say the paths of the two are divided. They separate, and even with the previous haircut, Eren maybe was comforted by Armin, also because in the moment in which he was having that haircut, Armin was still supporting him, was still trying maybe to find even excuses to excuse him for the things that he was thinking. But when we reach a certain moment, you see that Armin is no more next to Eren, as if he is agreeing with his choices, with Eren's choices. But you'll see that as soon as that this ocean turns into blood, Armin is in front of him, as if he is against him, as if he can't stand what he does anymore. Let's see if I can reach the thumbnail. Come on. Do you think she's gonna be able to forget about you and live happily with someone else? Oh, and finally we reach a moment in which Armin knows Eren's weak points. Armin knows that in that moment when they had the discussion, Eren was a fake. I mean, towards Mikasa, he was playing a role. So now he's trying to find all the ways possible to try to reach Eren deeply. He tried with touching his hand and helping and understand him, listening to him. He tried by telling him, even at the beginning of this dialogue, to know if he was really mean towards him or not, even if he knew the answer already. But now he tries another tactic because Armin is a pretty strategical as a character. So before saying goodbye to him, let's use all the strategy that I put in my mind and let's see if one works. And let's say that this one works for real. Um, Even when Armin is asking, do you really think Mikasa will forget about you and live happily with someone else the way you wanted? And Eren says, oh, I don't know. And Armin is punching him as never before. And let's say that Eren deserves this punch. First of all, because this punch can shake him and go back to real thoughts. Second of all, because this punch can let this mask that he has fall down. And third of all, because this punch represents all the punches that Armin felt, that Armin received that day without rebelling at them. But now it's time to return that punch because of these stupid ways to answer that are not just stupid because, of course, they lack of humanity, but they are stupid because Eren playing a role in front of Armin doesn't work. Even if he keeps trying, faking that he doesn't care, he cares, but he doesn't want to show these feelings in front of others. But together with Armin, this strategy, Eren, is impossible because he debunked you already in season 4 part 1 when you tried to play the role of the evil man who doesn't care, who has always hated her, etc., etc., and he did what he did because he had the instinct to help Mikasa to reach that goal that he didn't even know. Good. I mean, great, Eren. A mixture of incoherence and much more. Do you remember? This moment of the ocean was so peaceful when they reached the ocean, and except for Eren, they were all happy. And the ocean so clear, the sky so blue, etc., etc. And now the same setting lived in a different way. While Armin was there before, oh, Eren, do you see that what I promised you to find it was real? The ocean is salty and whatever, la 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 la. And now Armin is no more that gentle and kind boy, but he is punching him in the same setting where everything changed. Because from the moment they reached the ocean, unfortunately, everything changed. And even in this case, even if the setting is where everything changed, even in this scene, everything is changing. Because Eren is conveying the feelings that he has never wanted to convey. the reason why he has never wanted to convey his feelings, and he tried many times from season one, if you remember, to push Mikasa away from him. It was because, by knowing these frames from the future, he knew that there was no destiny in common for them. So for him, it was better to push her away and suffer without saying anything instead of accomplish Mikasa's desire to know at least how he felt. For him, it was really painful to convey his feelings and then die without being able to spend that time together, or that the feelings that they had in common. While for Mikasa, it was enough, let's say, to at least spend a little bit of time, or at least to know his feelings. What the hell is an answer like that? I still haven't forgiven you. Oh, and one more time, Armin that is protecting Mikasa. This friendship that is increasing its importance now. I mean, in this final part, more than any and more than any time. For Armin, Mikasa was always the strongest. Even in season one, no one could defeat Mikasa because Mikasa was the strongest of the group, and he was even rescued by Mikasa. But he saw her as a girl that couldn't be damaged, right? But in the final season, Armin got in touch with another side of Mikasa, the hopeless Mikasa, the almost crying Mikasa, the fragile Mikasa. That was a side of her personality that he has never seen before. I mean, in the first season or in the second one, he has always seen a Mikasa that was super brave and convinced about what she had to do, and a soldier, let's say, that didn't want to give up and was always fighting without crying. While everyone was crying, Mikasa was serious. So the fact that everything was inverted in this final season, where Armin is the one who's protecting Mikasa, because Mikasa finally could have released her feelings and not feel as if she was heartless. As soon as Armin noticed that Mikasa was not heartless as he thought in season one, he got in touch with her, and now the roles are inverted. How do you feel about the fact that you ignored Mikasa's feelings? He didn't ignore Mikasa's feelings. The problem is that he doesn't want to hear them clearly, because if Eren is a character moved by instinct. If he really had to follow his instinct, even about love, he would have never wanted to die. And in fact, he's saying it. So let's say that if he really had to interrupt what he was thinking to follow his instincts about love, then the story would have not gone in the right way. So he's stepping on his self, especially when I say this. He's also stepping on his real feelings. So when Armin is trying to say this, how do you feel about the fact that you ignored Mikasa's feelings? Let's say that he wants to help him to release those feelings, because for Armin, everything was fake. Even the fact of saying, I've always hated you. Come on. It's not true. But he hopes that he is the one saying, Armin, you're right. I care about Mikasa, etc., etc. He can't wait for this moment at a point that he's mean, let's say, to provoke Eren in a certain way, because he knows that if he's touching that weak point, Eren is going to show his feelings. And that's what happens. Mikasa risked her life and only ever had eyes for you. I feel sorry that in this case, Armin is confessing Mikasa's love instead of Mikasa, even if Mikasa by saying, you are my family, or let's run away, etc., etc. Eren already had the chance to understand what Mikasa really wanted to do, even if it was not the proper thing to do. But he already understood that Mikasa wanted to run away with him, to find a spot just for the two of themselves, to spend the last 4 years Eren had, because who cares about the rest? The most important thing is that I have you for 4 years and then we love each other. Eren already had this confession of feelings from Mikasa in that dimension, even if that dimension was not possible also for Mikasa, especially for Mikasa. Did you think you could just say forget about me and that would have been that? Well, I like how Armin is scolding Eren, how Armin is treating him as a child. I mean, as a little boy who made a big mistake, and the father Armin is scolding the little Eren. Eren, what did you do? Why did you do? This is hilarious. I like to see Armin in this way because he's a final time to talk to him. So it was good that he acted like this. At the very least, Mikasa should forget about a heartbreaker like you and find happiness. Here he touched the weakest point of Eren. That means Armin approves that Mikasa finds someone else. That Eren broke her heart and she deserves happiness with someone else. Boom! Eren exploded in that moment because these are the three things that later we discover he doesn't want. Well, she just might find a good guy sooner than you'd think and hit it off with him. Ooh. He's so pushing him hard. But that was the moment when Eren is revealing his feelings. It's his time to put down, to take off the mask about the feelings, okay? Not about his project to exterminate humanity and whatever. I'm talking about feelings now. And the fact that he was interpreting a role of the man who doesn't feel anything anymore, and a heartless person. No, because here he is letting his mask fade away. And when it's about the feelings, here in this moment, he is not confused. He knows how he feels. That would kill me, but anyway, he will be killed. But he's crying. So you see Eren crying, okay? And this is happening after such a long time. After Sasha's death, we don't see him crying. This is the last time we have the chance to see Eren crying. And I think this is the Eren we remember of season 1. Look at his eyes. They are not the eyes of what we saw throughout this final season. These eyes are like as if we are talking to the Eren of season 1. that he's scolded by his mom probably, and he's saying, no, I don't want that, I don't want to do that, etc., etc. So here you have the chance to see Eren as we remember. And even if it's just a few moments in which you can see this makes you understand that that kind of Eren is not gone completely. And he says, I don't want her to find someone. I want to be her one and only for the rest of my life. And after I die, I want her to pine after me for at least 10 years. See? Okay, this reminds me of what I told you before of Eren. Eren that wants to impose what to do with, I mean, he wants to impose others what he thinks that they have to do. I mean, while Armin needs to be the savior of humanity, the hero, Mikasa has to wait to have a new life at least 10 years. So she has to feel pain for 10 years and remember him for these 10 years constantly. And then suddenly, after 10 years, okay, now I can be free to start my life with someone else or as much as I want. Eren, you promote freedom, but this is incoherent, and that's why I say this is the typical behavior that a child has. No, you take away my favorite toy. Now I wanted to punish you by doing this. No, this is my favorite candy. I wanted to treasure it for some years, and then I give it to you back. No, I don't want that he plays with someone else because I'm jealous. Because these are all childish behaviors, like a kindergarten style. Okay. I mean, we are not talking about an adult person who, even if he is jealous, he's saying things even in a different way, right? This is like a child looking at his dad who's scolding him. And that's why I'm saying that this vision of Eren as it is now in this moment of the episode is the Eren that we lost in the moment his mother died. He is representing a side of his personality that was be ahead that was ahead that he was having before that tragedy. Because later after you have never seen Eren like this, so childish, so immature, so presumptuous to schedule what other people have to do, etc., etc. No, I mean, even his choices that they have to move forward no matter what the others think. Like when he wanted to join Chosahedan and Mikasa was trying to do something else, telling his parents he wants to join Chosahedan. Mikasa, why did you tell them? That's the same behavior. We lost this Eren from the moment his mother died. But that side of Eren coexists now because the past, present, and future are in one. So even his behaviors are mixed. His attitude towards what Armin is saying is changing. You see, firstly, a childish Eren. No, actually, you see a Eren that is convinced, a Eren that is no more convinced, a Eren that is childish, an Eren that doesn't want to lose his friend, an Eren that is afraid of dying. If you put all these things together, you make the Eren 100%. While Armin, throughout these memories that Eren is trying to show him, doesn't change because Armin is listening, and at the same time, he's always scolding Eren, even now, but even after when the ocean turns blood into blood. So while Armin is coherent throughout these memories, and he's not changing his mind about his intentions, about the reason why he did some things, about how he is against Eren. Eren is still a roller coaster of emotions. In all this dialogue, he is behaving so differently throughout the scenes that you understand how confused he is. But he is in this dialogue, Eren is representing what we are, human beings. You understand that what he said to Ymir, you are not a slave, you are not a goddess, you are a being, you are a human being. That works for Eren too. Now he's not a slave because he decided to move forward with his convictions, even if, let me tell you honestly, until he dies, he is a slave of convictions. But while now he is talking to Armin and we see these memories, Eren is dead. And that's why Armin could collect these memories back. So until he died, he didn't change his opinion about being killed. So, but if we have to say something, he is not a slave of freedom. Eren is a slave of his convictions that made him turn like this. And he's not a god because he can't even control this power for sure. He is a human being. So his words that he was telling to Ymir can refer even to himself. Even the way he's crying, when yes, later he's saying that he's a pathetic. But yes, but even in our lives, there are moments in which we seem to be adult and take good decisions and being firmly convinced about the things. And maybe some other days after, we are there crying and sobbing, being like a child, reacting as a child to some circumstances. So I find Eren so human here, so human in all these dialogue he has with Armin. And Armin said, "Oh, I see." I didn't think you would say anything that pathetic. Yes, because Eren, sincerely, since he knew Armin, he was the one helping Armin to not feel pathetic. I mean, he was the one trying to convince Armin to make a decision of what to do, to stand up and be brave and go and fight. Armin has never seen Eren in this way. We also have never seen him, but this childish behavior, he had it even in season one. They were when they were young. Of course, he was not crying in this way, but he had this behavior. So for Armin, the way to see him crying like that, for me, Kasa, I have never seen you like so pathetic like this. Actually, it's true. Don't tell Mikasa any of these because, of course, for Mikasa, he has to be represented as kakoi, I mean, as handsome, the firmly convinced Eren, the one who wants to fight because if you don't fight, you're going to lose. I mean, the idea, the way Mikasa idealized Eren needs to stay, okay? To convince her that That was the right thing to do. If you tell me, Mikasa, maybe she will not love, maybe Eren is afraid that Mikasa will never love him again if she knows this side of his personality. No, I'm convinced of the contrary. I mean, I think that Mikasa would have loved him even more sincerely because he was able to show his fragility. So Mikasa would have loved him more. But he has this pride of his that can't be, shouldn't be dismantled. So he's asking Armin, please don't say this to Mikasa. So I'm fine with that. I mean, I can show you, but I don't want to show her. And in fact, when he was collecting this final memory with Mikasa, Eren was, please, Mikasa, please forget about me. Throw away the scarf. He was serious and all that. He would have never made that pathetic vision of him in front of her. So you see the difference, how he wants to be seen by Mikasa, how he can be seen by Armin. The pride of show him, the pride to show her a side of his that it's impossible to erase. He can't accept that. So Armin, keep the secret. Did he keep the secret, in your opinion? We will talk about it later. I want her to find happiness. I really do. I think so. I don't think he is lying. But at the same time, it's really hard to get rid of a lover. It's really hard to say goodbye. Eren is afraid to say goodbye. It's not true that he doesn't care, that it's good that he dies because his friends are. Yes, he wants to be punished for the things that he made, but at the same time, he doesn't want to die because he wanted to belong to that happiness they were feeling. He wanted maybe even to be the cause of that happiness. He wanted to share that happiness, but he knows that he will not be able to do so. So, as I told you, before dying, you show your true self. Before dying, you have the chance to say things you have never said before, to do things you have never done before, to show a side of yours that it was never shown, um, to transmit even the fear that you have of dying. Because one thing is to say, when you're young, you say, I'm not afraid of dying. But as soon as you reach a certain age and death is approaching more and more and more, little by little, your feelings are changing, I guess. I'm young, but I can already imagine somehow how I would feel when I get old and I will approach death somehow. Um, I hope that I still have a long life to live, but I can understand. I mean, I feel so empathic to characters who are behaving in a certain way before death. I've never put myself in that position. I've never risked my life to a point in which I was almost afraid of dying. But somehow it's like as if I understand not only characters but even people in real life who are almost dying and they are doing unexpected things. As much as I told you in the previous analysis of this episode, most of the times before dying, you hope to see your dear people for the last time. You hope to remind them the things that you couldn't tell them before. You hope that with what you say, somehow these will help you rest in peace, or will redeem you from the bad things you did, or you can show the people who are going to stay the truth. And I think for Eren, that's the case. He has the chance to talk to Armin for the last time. He has the chance to convey his final and real feelings. He has the chance to show himself to Armin so that Armin doesn't have that negative memory of Eren, but he had the opportunity to know, to have an answer to all his questions before going. And I think that even for Eren, this was a great risk, but he wanted to take the risk of showing himself how confused he was, how much he felt love for Mikasa, how he was convinced about something, but he was wrong. He wanted to give Armin all the tools to get in touch with what Eren was, to be sure that Armin could have collected some frames of what he was, so that he could have always had a peaceful and good memory about him, and not the contrary. I mean, he didn't want that the last time he met Armin was that moment in which he was punching him, so Armin would have remembered Eren punching him. He wanted to give him the possibility to be reminded by Armin in a good way. And I think that Eren was stepping on his pride too now. And it's not easy for a character like Eren. It's not easy to step on his pride. But if it was for Armin, if it was for his best friend, he could have been able to do so. And that means how much he cares about Armin. Not only because he wanted to push him away, not only because he wanted the best things for him, even if it was more like an imposition than a suggestion or a hope that he had for him, but he wanted to see, I mean, he wanted Armin to see how much Eren loved them for real. And it was not a joke. It was not just a conviction that he had. The convictions were something else, but the conviction of loving them, it was real 100%. Eh, I don't want to die. And oof, this is the fear that many people have, or that they don't reveal until the end. The fear of dying. It's pretty emotional. The fear of dying. I don't want to die, yes, because even if he deserves punishment, the fact that he understands how much he wasted his time to try to reach a goal based on his convictions. This is the proper time for Eren to understand how much time he wasted for all that he did to run towards a goal that once it was reached means his death. Yes, I really like how human Eren is right now, to share his feelings like that, to say, I don't want to die. Because no one can prevent this death. He tried his best to change things, but he couldn't. So that death has to happen. Nothing can change it. And that's why, even if Armin is saying now, I don't want to leave Mikasa or any of you. Wow, that's the time in which Eren is true to himself. Oh, in this fragment, the convictions are not prevailing. His feelings, his core feelings are. And here he is true to himself. For real. I love this so much. And Armin at that time said, Eren, let's keep trying. Let's find another way. We can't. Just because he conveyed his feelings, that doesn't mean that he will betray his convictions. Otherwise, he would have been incoherent for all the times even Grisha tried to change his beliefs and he felt disappointed. He can't change this point of view he has. He can't feel disappointed about himself too. He felt already disappointed with so many things or circumstances happening in the world. The only true things, the only true thing that he can still trust is his convictions. If also his convictions are fading away, there's no way that he can exist or that he can feel proud of all these. So he can't. When Armin is trying to tell him, let's change, no, we can't change. I'm sure none of them wanted to die either. Of course, he's talking about the humanity that was exterminated, but even the comrades that died to let this story go on. And then I, and then in front of Armin, and we needed to remember that that's the Armin of before reaching Eren and try to kill him, because we see that this memory is happening in the moment before Armin talking to Annie. So Armin doesn't know that he had already exterminated 80% of people, of a population. And that's why when now Eren is saying we can't, of course, because these memories are already old, if you think about it, and everything that happened already, but also because Armin didn't approach that destiny already written yet. And this ocean turns into an ocean of blood. That is, this concept of the ocean that turns into blood to represent the liters and liters of blood that was spread because of this extermination, and also because the ocean that turns into blood refers to the dream that they had to reach this beautiful ocean, so crystal clear, that turns into the nightmare. And these fires, sorry, these blood, these red tone of red that represents blood, that is also referring to all the chances wasted to reach a different option that took him to create something like this. And this dream that took him to a disappointment, and this disappointment caused this, the rumbling. And as always, but I will tell you even next week when we will go ahead, this reference to Evangelion with the Evangelion movie of the rebuild of Evangelion. where you see more or less the same scene. But I will analyze it on Monday, so I will have more time to talk about this. But surely this vision that Armin has in front of his eyes, where this crystal clear ocean is becoming red of blood, and even full of this smoke created by the rumbling, this scenario that represents exactly what Eren turned into. That means a mass murderer. So the will to be able to convey his feelings a few seconds after, a few seconds before, when he was uh, telling Armin about the sureness of his feelings, and then this will of not dying that can't be changed because things already happened. And Eren already lived these things over and over again by coexisting through time, by time coexisting in his existence, sorry. And so he lived that experience time after time after time. So for him, it's obvious that the story has to go on in this way. He's trapped by these visions that he has. And Armin's reaction in front of this, that is priceless, because for Armin is the moment of the pure truth, to see what Eren's convictions caused in the world. 80%. I tremble 80% of humanity. So the fact that Armin says, let's find another way, it's too late, because it already happened. And it's too late. It reminds me Kiyomi and Annie talking together why we can't go back in time and remake some things differently. Annie said, we can't because it's too late. And we can't go back in time and transform things in a different way. We just have to take responsibilities of what we made. That's it. And feel guilty, feel regretful. Yeah, Armin is because when he's having this parallel dimension, he still needs to reach Eren because they were desperately trying to reach him. Do you remember? And they didn't even start with the flying boat, so he didn't even had the perception of this disaster, because they thought they could have gone with this flying boat to stop Eren before reaching the shore, let's say. So try to understand now Armin's reaction. And Armin is disappointed by him. He's saying, how could you? Why? And okay, I think that I will stop this live streaming now, guys, because more or less I have reached the thumbnail. So tomorrow, not tomorrow, sorry, on Monday for sure, I will be sure to end this dialogue and move forward. But I think that I will modify a little bit this thumbnail by putting a specific scene that is the punch. Eren, when Eren is punched by Armin, I think is more effective. Yes, for this live streaming. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for all the comments, and have a great weekend. And see you on Monday with the last week, I think, of these immense analysis dedicated to the final episode of Shingeki no Kyojin. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye. See you. Bye.